Kenya vindicated in Matungo and Kabuchai by-election victories, with Mudavadi and Wetangula now attributing the trump to their popularity in Mulembe. Also tonight, man killed by the mob in Kisumu after he shot and killed 2 people with a police gun. And tonight, we tell you of a clash between agriculture and wildlife in Amboseli that is potentially a threat to the posterity of the majestic Jumbos. Welcome to the broadcast. TV 47 weekend begins right now. Minnie Mbesa is our sign language interpreter. As Ford Kenya Party supporters celebrate their candidate Majimbo Kalasinga's victory in the just concluded Kabuchai by-election, 3 members of parliament as well as a senator allied to Deputy President William Ruto have been released on a 100,000 shilling bond of 50,000 shillings cash bail each after they were arraigned at a Bungoma law court. Mike Agongo was at the court and filed the following report.
Before Bungoma resident Magistrate Stephen Mogute, the parliamentarians Didymus Baraza of Kimilili, Nelson Koech of Belgut, Chesumei's Wilson Kogo and Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei denied the charges, including intention to cause violence, as well as refusing to have their fingerprints taken.
Particulars being that on the 4th day of March 2021 along Bungoma-Chwere Road, Bungoma Central Sub-County within Bungoma County, you are found armed with offensive weapons, namely 3 horse stick, in circumstances that indicated that they were so armed with intent to commit a felony, namely breach of peace.
The legislators were also charged with trying to bribe voters in favor of UDA candidate Evans Kakai. After spending a night in Bungoma police cells, the 4 were released on a cash bail of 50,000 shillings. The lawyer Japheth Mutai lauded the court following the ruling, saying the charges leveled against his clients were frivolous.
That be the case, we are satisfied with what has transpired today in court. They've been released with a bond of 100,000, in alternative a cash bail of 50,000. which we shall ensure that we secure freedom of our clients.
Matter set to be heard on 4th April 2021.
Hatukuwa katika mahali ambapo labda kulikuwa na vita pale popote. Na wale ambao walikuwa wanapiga watu wanajulikana. Ukiangalia katika video, sisi tukiwa seli hapa, tumeona wamerarua mpaka MCA mwingine manguo.
Jambo ambalo linashtua hasa tukiwa na katiba ya 2010 ni kwamba ile detention without trial imerudi katika taifa letu la Kenya.
UDA is a party that has scared everybody. The hustler nation is real. And everybody else is scared, especially the deep state.
Meanwhile, for the Kenya party leader Moses Wetangula says the win for the party candidate in Kabuchai mini poll is an indicator of how he, Wetangula, is popular in Bungoma County. And now they aim at uniting with other political outfits to enhance good leadership.
In the next 10 days, we are going to Machakos to return our hand to Wiper. Wiper was here for 2 days, 1 day in Kabuchai, 1 day in Matungo. So waheshimiwa ambao mko hapa, create time. I want to go with all of you to Machakos.
For Kenya's Majimbo Kalasinga won the by-election with a landslide after trouncing 7 other candidates.
And the probability of winning is 1/8. And the probability to lose is 7/8. So this seat was to be occupied by one person, and I believe that the people of Kabuchai have spoken out. Kindly come together, we win all this game together, and there is always next time for these elections. Kalasinga registered 19,274 votes against UDA candidate Evans Masinde's 6,455 votes.
Kenya!
For TV 47 from Kabuchai constituency, Bungoma County, I'm Mike Kagwamba.
Majimbo.
Well, still on the by-elections, yesterday's chaos in several by-elections across the country has continued to gain traction, with some political leaders pointing an accusing finger at the police for acting as agents of chaos and disrupting peace in several polling stations. But Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i has warned politicians against inciting their supporters against each other as the country prepares for next year's general election. Matiang'i now says it will not be business as usual, promising to prosecute all those who are involved in the drama. With just a few months to next year's general election, amid heated political contestations in the country, Thursday's chaotic by-elections in Matungo and Kabuchai constituencies and London and Kiamokama wards has raised eyebrows. The conduct of most political leaders during the by-elections being questioned.
What has he done?
Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i has warned the political class against inciting their supporters, promising to take action against those involved in castigating violence in Thursday's by-election.
We have a group of leaders who, for some reason, believe that violence is the way you acquire prominence and is the way you acquire dominance. So you walk to a place, you beat up presiding officers, you slap people as a way of showing how strong and important you are. We are beyond talking on this particular issue. We are working towards an election. The truth of the matter is that we cannot afford that kind of behavior in the country.
However, the police have received their fair share of criticism, with some alleging that police patrolling some of the polling stations used force to intimidate the voters into voting for predetermined candidates.
Kama wanasiasa wanapigana ni sawa, wacha wapigane. Kama wabunge wanapigana nje ya pale ya kupigia kura, wacha wapigane. Lakini kama utaruhusu wanasiasa ama wauni waingie mpaka kituo ya kupiga kura, watoe ofisa ya IBC nje, wachukue vifaa vya kupiga kura, sasa that is now anarchy. That is not even lawlessness, that is anarchy. And what we saw yesterday was anarchy.
The election processes were flawed, completely flawed. We had a lot of malpractices. We had a lot of intimidation of the voters by the police force. We actually had a situation where one of the aspirants was arrested before he could even cast his own vote.
In Matungo constituency, ODM and ANC supporters clashed over allegations of voter bribery as former Sports Cabinet Secretary Rashid Echesa was caught on camera assaulting an IEBC official. Echesa has since been arrested. In Kabuchai constituency, MPs Didmas Barasa, Wilson Logo, and Nelson Koech and Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei were arrested. According to the police, the lawmakers were arrested for allegedly being in possession of illegal firearms and causing violence in the Kabuchai by-elections. Matiang'i now promising to revoke the gun license of all those involved in the chaotic mini-polls.
Some of those people slapping returning officers and so on and presiding officers are out on bond on several other cases because they believe you will arrest them, they'll go before a magistrate, they'll be out on 10,000 shillings bond. Then they'll wait for the Machakos by-election and go there to slap more presiding officers. We are beyond talking. We will this time around act firmly. I've asked the Firearm Licensing and Control Board to suspend all licenses of what the people involved, the leaders were involved in that violence yesterday. Because it's clear under the law, you cannot own a firearm when you are that type of person.
Now, Jubilee registered 2 victories in the just concluded by-elections in 5 wards. Jubilee Party won in Hellsgate and Huruma wards as UDA, ODM and Wiper won a seat each in the other 3 ward by-elections held yesterday. Willie Dennis Njiru has the details.
In Kiamokama Ward, ODM's Malak Matara was declared the new ward member of the County Assembly by IEBC. Matara garnered 1,907 out of 5,963 votes cast with a 54.94% voter turnout, beating 10 candidates who had contested for the seat. The seat fell vacant following the demise of the former MCA Kenneth Mainya, who died of COVID-19 related complications in November last year. Earlier in the day, ugly scenes were witnessed in the ward as the UDA candidate was arrested alongside his supporters meters away from Remani polling station over alleged voter bribery.
Things were peaceful. Everything ran on well until last evening when some people who feel entitled decided to use the police to intimidate wananchi.
In Huruma Ward, Uasin Gishu County, Jubilee's party Lusingendo Chomba won the by-election garnering 2,498 votes. Jubilee Deputy Secretary General and Chelangani MP Joshua Kutuni, while congratulating Ngendo for her victory, said the party remained strong even as a section of the members continued to show allegiance to the newly formed UDA party associated with the Deputy President William Ruto.
Dhihirisho kwamba chama hiki bado ni chama cha wengi katika sehemu hii na taifa kwa ujumla, na tunataka kuchukua nafasi hii kwanza kumpatia pongezi Mheshimiwa Lucy kwa kunyakua ushindi huu na kupeperusha bendera ya chama chetu cha Jubilee. Mimi nakufulia kofia eko sana, na mikakati ambayo chama imeweka ndio imeweza kusaidia kuweza kunyakua kiti hii na kukirejesha tena kwa chama tawala.
Ama wachache walikuwa viongozi, lakini sisi wote hatuwezi kuwa viongozi at the same time.
Ishanga Virginia Wamaitha.
In Naivasha's Hell's Gate Ward, the Jubilee Party candidate Virginia Wamaitha emerged top, garnering 3,955 votes against closest contender Jonathan Kuria Warodhe of UDA, who garnered 2,742 votes.
Kuna watu walikuwa wanafikiria kutakuwa na fulugu. Unajua ile shida imekuja Nakuru kidogo ni kwa sababu uchaguzi uliharibika kidogo kwa kituo fulani. Alafu watu wetu wengi.
Mheshimiwa, wakati mko bunge tulikuwa tumeongea maneno ya kubadilisha jina Hell's Gate, at least iwe na jina mzuri kidogo kama Heaven's Gate Ward ama Mirera Ward ama Karagita Ward.
Further west of Nakuru town, UDA candidate Anthony Nzuki Wachira emerged the winner in a hotly contested London ward by-election. Nzuki garnered 1,707 votes, with his closest challenger Jubilee's Francis Njoroge bagging 1,385 votes in an exercise marked by chaos and poor voter turnout, which stood at 24.71%. A total of 4,541 votes were cast in London ward, representing 24.7% of the registered voters in a cosmopolitan ward that has 18,380 registered voters. Also in Kalonzo Musyoka's Wiper Party won Kitesi Kithuki's ward by-election after Sebastian Muli garnered 3,892 votes. Kivutha Kibwana's Muungano Party candidate Joseph Kioko was second with a partly 878 votes. Reporting for TV 47 from Naivasha in Nakuru County, I'm Willie Dennis Njiru.
Now, ANC and Ford Kenya by-election victories in Matungo and Kabuchai respectively has been attributed to the cordial working relationship between ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi and his Ford Kenya counterpart Moses Wetangula. And as Boniface Barasa now reports, the two Mulembe Nation kingpins have been advised to merge their outfits for better outcomes in 2022.
In the last 24 hours, Matungo and Kabuchai constituencies were turned into a political platform to gauge the political strength of Western region kingpins. Both Mudavadi and Wetangula triumphed in the mini polls. But what led to their candidates' victory? Professor Masibo Lumala is a lecturer at the US-based Pardee University.
Other than just the fact that they had to work hard to retain the seats, Kabuchai is home to the Bungoma senator, who is the party leader for Ford Kenya, Honorable Moses Wetangula. And then there was that unit of purpose, so that we didn't have ANC fielding a candidate against Ford Kenya in Kabuchai. Ford Kenya did not field any candidate against the ANC's candidate in Matungo. And we saw the two Luya leaders, Mudavadi and Wetangula, working together.
The unity between the two
has seen or brought success to the two constituencies, that's Matungo constituency and Kapchai constituency. And their unity made the people on the ground also to unite and to speak as one voice.
Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula agreed to support one another in the recently concluded elections. Although the two parties won the by-elections, political analysts argue that the two parties must be merged into one political outfit ahead of the 2022 general elections. Here is Dr. David Luangale's remarks.
My advice to them is to collapse the two parties into one so that they front one candidate for the presidential elections next year. If they can unite and work as a team, let's say if ANC and Ford Kenya can unite and form one party, then they'll have strength to fight for the presidency.
Ile nguvu Mudavadi na Wetangula wameutumia kupata ushindi wa Kapchai, wautumie kupata ushindi wa urais, ndo tujue wao ni mandume.
With this victory, what does it mean as far as the Mlembe region's politics is concerned?
President Uhuru Kenyatta once said, when you want to come to my area, please use the front door. Don't use the back door. Now, in this case, any leader who would like to have a chance in getting votes from Western Kenya going forward, it might just be important that they work with existing leaders, that they work with elected leaders. You don't want to work with a chaser, you know. You don't want to work with the likes of people who did not who have no respect for the community.
Any person coming from outside to solicit for Mlembe votes without involving the leaders on the ground will not succeed. And also another thing that we see is that the future is bright for the Mlembe nation, in that there's a possibility of achieving the elusive Luya unity that has been fronted by various leaders in the past.
This development comes at a time when the former Secretary General of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, Dr. Muhisa Kitui, has declared interest in the presidency, just like ANC's Musalia Mudavadi. Boniface Barasa, TV47, Trans Nzoia County.
Now ANC's Peter Oscar Nabulindo is the new member of parliament for the Matungo constituency after clinching the parliamentary seat during the Matungo mini polls. Nabulindo, who garnered 14,257 votes, beat 15 other candidates, among them ODM's David Were and UDA's Alex Lanya, who had been seen as frontrunners in the race to succeed the late Matungo legislator Justus Murunga. And as David Mudhoka now reports, Nabulindo's win has been welcomed by his party boss Musalia Mudavadi, who has insisted that ANC's win in the Matungo by-election is proof that the Western politics bloc, is fully behind his presidential bid ahead of next year's polls.
Following a 4-month wait since the demise of former Matungo legislator ANC's Justus Murunga, coupled with what seemed as a lengthy Italian process, Matungo residents could finally breathe a sigh of relief after another ANC candidate, Peter Nabulindo, was announced as the MP-elect for Matungo earlier Friday. Nabulindo's victory saw him beat ODM and UDA candidates David Were and Alex Lanya respectively, who were among the front-runners in a race that had attracted 15 contestants. According to IEBC returning officer for the Matungo by-election John Kirui, Nabulindo garnered 14,257 votes. His closest competitor, ODM's Were, got 10,565 votes, while UDA's Lanya came a distant third with 5,513 votes.
Mr. Peter Oscar Nabulindo managed to garner 14,257 votes, being the highest amount of votes, and therefore he emerges the winner in this contest.
This means that Nabulindo will represent residents of Matungo in the August House for the next 1.5 years ahead of next year's general elections.
Niko na furaha sio kifani kwamba ndoto yangu leo imetimia, na kwamba kutimia kwa ndoto yangu kunanipa nafasi ya kufanya mambo fulani ambayo nilikuwa nimepanga kuyafanya Matungo kwa sababu ya huduma kwa mwananchi wa Matungo.
While welcoming the victory, ANC boss Musalia Mudavadi has insisted that his western backyard is bulletproof to other parties and leaders with the intention of pulling part of the western region to their side. The ANC party flag bearer, ahead of next year's presidential elections, has further stated that ANC is the party to watch as political realignments continue to take shape.
We are proud people because the people of Matungo have spoken for the whole of Western Kenya. And on our behalf, they have said, gentlemen and ladies, Western Kenya si pahali pa kuchezewa tena.
This comes at a time when both ODM and UDA could be licking their wounds after a dismal performance in the high-stakes Thursday Matungo by-election. ODM leader Raila Odinga is said to have been rooting for the party's relevance in the western region to rival ANC's Nabulindo, while on the other hand, UDA was expecting to benefit from the perceived split between Odinga and Mudavadi camps in the western region to make a stab at the Matungo parliamentary seat. Nabulindo's triumph in Matungo has not only been seen as a move by the ANC party to solidify its political base, but also a wake-up call for Odinga and Ruto ahead of next year's general elections, where both Odinga, Ruto, as well as Mudavadi have shown interest in vying. David Mudhoka, TV47, Kakamega County.
Well, TV47 Weekend takes a short commercial break, but we'll be back with more. Remember, you can follow this live broadcast on www.tv47.co.ke.
Cooking, jumping rope, skating, playing indoor games are just but a few of the ways we have fun at Kids on the Block. But that can't be all. We also grow and learn. We have science, spelling, and book reading to sharpen our minds. I, Whitney Damdia, will take you through all this gist only on Kids on the Block every Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Stay tuned.
On the next episode of Coffee with the Movie.
Really, Simon Bevy.
Yes.
Married to Sophia, 3 children.
Yes.
We're leaving home soon, and I'm writing letters to my daughter. So I hope by the time she leaves, she'll have these letters that she'll always read for the rest of her life. A lot of grace towards each other. Then you come to drama, because now you wake up and you realize, what did I do?
Yes.
And you begin to see some issues about this person, and you begin to fight. So a lot of conflicts. Now, a lot of marriages unravel during drama.
Yes.
Some fathers are like that. They're present, but nobody approaches them.
Catch this story every Sunday at 8 p.m. on the next episode of The Realtor.
We take a different look at this in being gated community bungalows.
When you come on board, you get an opportunity to be able to customize your house from scratch. You're the person who decides how big you want the sitting room to be. You're the one who decides whether you want a very big front yard or very big backyard. You can imagine as an investor purchasing a property for 3.7 million, and within a span of less than 2 years, you're able to sell it at 5.3 million. I think that's a good investment.
The Realtor, every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Only the wearer knows where it pinches the most. Soil fertility, proper temperature, water are just some of the factors needed to make that crop germinate. And for that animal, adequate feeds and healthy conditions is what they need. Kilimo Diaries takes you to different farmers, markets, and processing companies and have you fully equipped for that agriculture venture. Kilimo Diaries, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. This month, the Throwdown treats your taste buds with a sweet ride down dessert heaven with delicious and tasty recipes that will make your sweet tooth tingle. The Throwdown, every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Welcome back. You're watching TV 47 Weekend. Now, ODM party leader Raila Odinga's tour to the coast came to an end today after visiting Samburu in Kwale County. Conspicuously missing at the rally was Kwale Governor Salim Mvurya. However, this did not deter the Chungwa movement and the BBI reggae to rumble on, as Mariam Wacharo now reports.
Reggae in the bathroom, reggae in the bedroom, reggae everywhere.
On the final day of a week-long tour of ODM leader Raila Odinga to the coast, various concerns were raised by leaders of the South Coastal region. Top on the list was land, which is famously known as a historical injustice to the coastal region as a whole. Kwale Senator Issa Boy calling on Raila Odinga to come to the rescue of the residents.
Hapa Kwale kuna shida kubwa. Waseme wamezungumza kuhusu habari ya mashamba. Haswa sehemu hii ya Kinango. Hizi ranchi unazosikia zote zimerangwa na wanaume wa huko wameziranga. Kweli si kweli? Baba, huko Ukunda kuna ploti ya Mela Farm imechukuliwa na mwenyenye. Wewe usiku mtu melala, bulldozer anaingia anavunja nyumba, karibu nyumba 400-500. Wananchi hao baba wanalia, wanataka ardhi zao ziwe rudishiwe wenyewe.
Kwale woman representative Zulekha Hassan broke down in tears when she recounted that some elected leaders in Kwale are out to shortchange poor residents over their lands. Soon a member of parliament, Junet Muhammad, condemned ODM leaders implicated in the allegations, threatening to take action against the culprits.
Ukienda pale ukiona vile watu wafukuzwa. Lakini inshallah nawaomba msimpatie mheshimiwa mashetani ugavana. Atatuuza sisi watu wa Kwale. Na yeye ndio ashikana na deputy party leader Ruto. Amekuja lunga pale hakuzungumza mambo ya tinga. Kama yeye Ruto anafaa urais, si angesimamisha ile matinga. Watu maskini kitu alichobaki nayo ni ardhi peke yake. Lakini wanaonyimwa ardhi yao hawapewi hata shilingi.
Hapa kuna mbunge pia ya ODM. Wakati alichaguliwa mimi nimekutana bungeni nikauliza yeye unatakaje bana? Kaniambia pale kwetu kuna shida ya mashamba na madini. Sasa mimi nataka niwe katika kamati ya mazingira, maji na madini. Nimeambia hiyo umepata bana. Kwa sababu watu wa Kwale na watu wa ODM lazima nikupatie kamati ambayo unahitaji ili wasaidie. Mimi sijaona jamaa bungeni karibu sasa mwaka 2. Anatangatanga na William Ruto. Sasa sijui hiyo kamati nibadilishe ni watu wa Kwale kama mko na nipatie Zulekha ama nipatie, na kwa sababu hiyo kamati ndio inafaa isaidie mambo ya mashamba hapa.
On his part, ODM leader Raila Odinga promised that should the BBI bill pass, then the coastal region will forget historical injustices for good in just 6 months of its implementation. ODM's party leader Raila Odinga's tour to the coast has ended today, with residents from Samburu County sending him back to Nairobi with one message: their lands. Mariam Wacharo, TV 47, Kwale County.
Well, the government has today rolled out its first phase of the COVID-19 vaccination program. The exercise that was launched at the Kenyatta National Hospital targeted frontliners, with the Director General of Health, Patrick Amoth, being the first Kenyan to receive the jab. Zainab Mohammed with the details.
On behalf of the government and the Ministry of Health, I now wish to officially launch the COVID-19 vaccination campaign.
After
over 3 months of the COVID-19 vaccine rollout across the world, Kenya has joined the rest of the world in the race to immunize at least a third of its population. The rollout that was launched at the Kenyatta National Hospital began with the immunization of healthcare workers, with Director General of Health Patrick Amoth being the first Kenyan to receive the jab.
Oh, not painful, just a little pinch like. I'm feeling great. That is why I can be able to stand in front of you in this hot sun and address you. So that is an indication that the vaccine is safe.
The day-long process was intense, with the government taking no chance, as the recipients were required to register and pass the eligibility criteria before receiving the dose.
I went through a checkup. I knew that I'm okay. Through temperature check, maybe blood pressure, then registered electronically, and was received by the vaccinating nurse, and was prepared to experience a bit of pain, and there I was given the vaccine after it was cleaned and drawn in my eyes that it was the real vaccine.
Kwanza kabisa niliandikishwa jina kutokana na kule kwa mlango. Nikakuja hapa nikafanyiwa registration. After the registration, mimi ndiye nilipewa nafasi ya kwanza kwa security department.
After receiving a jab, the recipients undertook an observation period of about 15 to 30 minutes before being allowed to continue with their daily activities, many of whom reported positive outcomes.
Niko sawa, nilidungwa nikakaa 15 minutes, una mwili iko sawa, uchungu sina, na juu nimeambiwa after 2 to 7 days itakuwa na uchungu kidogo, of which najua itakuja na itaisha. Ni lazima ukuwe na uchungu pale penye umedungwa shindano.
The vaccination, I just felt a little bit of pain, nothing much, and currently just slight pain on the arm that was vaccinated. Otherwise, nothing much.
According to the Ministry of Health, the phase that is expected to continue until June this year will be rolled out in all the 47 counties starting next week.
Once we officially launch the campaign today, the vaccination exercise will commence in all our county referral hospitals, since the vaccines have also been moved there.
Today's launch marks the start of a nationwide vaccination exercise as the government continues to appeal to all essential workers and specifically health workers to come out in large numbers and get vaccinated. Zainab Mohammed, TV47 at the Kenyatta National Hospital.
Well, quite a historic moment it was for the country. Now, moving on to a rather tragic story. 2 people have died and 4 others seriously injured after a man shot indiscriminately after snatching a gun from a police officer in Kisumu. The suspect, 21-year-old Glenn Ochieng, snatched a gun from a traffic police officer along the Kisumu Boys roundabout and began shooting randomly. Members of the public later subdued him and beat him to death.
Drama ensued in Kisumu County Friday morning after a man only described as a young man in his 20s allegedly snatched a gun from a traffic police officer controlling traffic at the Kisumu Boys roundabout. It was almost a scene from a horror movie as unsuspecting members of the public were quickly forced to scamper for safety as bullets flew with no specific point of target. This action now leaving 2 people dead and 4 others injured.
Huyu jamaa alifika hapo roundabout akanyang'anya afisa bunduki. Huyo afisa ndiye akaanza naye wakapiga huyo afisa risasi. Sasa yeye alikuwa anakuja, kila mtu mwenye mpata mbele yake yeye anapiga risasi. Akapiga mama mwingine alikuwa anashuka kwa pikipiki pia akapiga risasi.
Napiga kila mtu yote amekuja mbele yake analipua. Ndio sisi tukaingia na nyuma ya hoteli tukatokea na nyuma. Ndio tukamrukia tukaanguka na yeye chini. Hapo ndio tumemnyang'anyia bunduki.
The suspect will later on be identified as 21-year-old Glenn Ochieng, a man who police suspect to have had multiple aliases, as he was found with 2 other ID cards bearing different names. That is Joseph Otieno Masaka and Joseph Odeny Mutula. The officer, Senior Sergeant Joel Migiro, who whose gun was used as the murder weapon, is nursing injuries at a private hospital in Kisumu. He was shot on his pelvic and the bullet exited through his stomach. Elsewhere, a family in Aroso village, Migori County, is in the middle of an inheritance and burial tussle following the death of their father. The late John Opondo Okongo's children are fighting over the property and venue of their father's burial.
Wamechukua burial permit na ID ya mzee wameenda nani. Mimi kwambia wanipatia ID ya mzee na burial permit nataka kunipatia. Wanasema ati wanijui.
Tumekaa na huyu mzee na huyu kijana sasa karibu almost 50 years kama tumeketi na huyu mzee Opondo hapa na hao watoto wake. Sasa kuna mama mkubwa wa hii boma ako hapa. Sasa bibi mdogo amekuja, alikuwa ameshaenda, amewacha mzee, ameenda some years back. Akabeba vitu zake akaenda. Sasa anarudi kuclaim property hapa, ati pia anataka property hapa na alikuwa ameshaenda.
Area residents, however, vowed to support Opondo's eldest son's queues to bury his father at their home where he lives with his mother, who is mentally ill. Ruth Mulandi, TV 47.
Well, it's time to take another short commercial break, but we'll be back with more. Stay tuned.
Cooking, jumping rope, skating, playing indoor games are just but a few of the ways we have fun at Kids on the Block. But that can't be all. We also grow and learn. We have science, spelling, and book reading to sharpen our minds. I, Whitney Dambia, will take you through all this just only on Kids on the Block every Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Stay tuned.
On the next episode of Coffee with the Movie.
Really, Simon Bevy.
Yes.
Married to Sophia, 3 children.
Yes.
Be leaving home soon, and I'm writing letters to my daughter. So I hope by the time she leaves, she'll have these letters that she'll always read for the rest of her life. Out of grace towards each other. Then you come to drama, because now you wake up and you realize, what did I do?
Yes.
And you begin to see some issues about this person, and you begin to fight. So a lot of conflicts. Now, a lot of marriages unravel during drama.
Yes.
Some fathers are like that. They are present, but nobody approaches them.
Catch this story every Sunday at 8 p.m. on the next episode of The Realtor.
We take a different look at this in being gated community bungalows.
When you come on board, you get an opportunity to be able to customize your house from scratch. You're the person who decides how big you want the sitting room to be. You're the one who decides whether you want a very big front yard or very big backyard. You can imagine as an investor purchasing a property for 3.7 million, and within a span of less than 2 years, you're able to sell it at 5.3 million. I think that's a good investment.
The Realtor, every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Only the wearer knows where it pinches the most. Soil fertility, proper temperature, water are just some of the factors needed to make that crop germinate. And for that animal, adequate feeds and healthy conditions is what they need. Kilimo Diaries takes you to different farmers, markets, and processing companies and have you fully equipped for that agriculture venture. Kilimo Diaries, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. This month, the Throwdown treats your taste buds with a sweet ride down dessert heaven with delicious and tasty recipes that will make your sweet tooth tingle. The Throwdown, every Sunday at 6:30 p.m.
cooking, jumping rope, skating, playing indoor games are just but a few of the ways we have fun at Kids on the Block. But that can't be all. We also grow and learn. We have science, spelling, and book reading to sharpen our minds.
Welcome back. You're watching TV 47 Weekend. Now, Transport and Infrastructure CS James Macharia today inspected road infrastructure projects that will facilitate access into and out of the Nairobi Inland Container Depot ICD. The 1 billion shilling project, according to the CS, will be a great boost in export and import business through the port of Mombasa.
Transport CS James Macharia has lauded the infrastructure projects leading to and out of the Nairobi Inland Container Depot. Macharia, while inspecting the road network Friday, said the project is a major boost to the value of service provision in regard to exports and imports through the port of Mombasa.
And so this piece of infrastructure of ICD is critically important because if it's not functioning well, it means the SGR as well cannot function properly. And one of the critical elements is to make sure that cargo can come by SGR and be taken out to what we call the last mile. And the last mile is from ICD to other places.
Macharia also affirmed that phased takeover of SGR operations from the Chinese is underway. The process is set to end in May next year.
The ICD, like I said, is part of the industrial development of our country. When the ICD was commissioned in 2018, in the first year, we only had 10% utilization. Now we have about 75% utilization. And 75%, I would dare say, is the optimal level of operating an ICD.
The CS said that 256 million shillings has been used in improving the Railway Training Institute's infrastructure in a plan to equip local labor with necessary skills and training that will help in the takeover of SGR services.
So we have the good thing about Kenya, we have a lot of skilled manpower, young men and women who are very skilled. And so we agreed jointly, mutually with the contractor that we need to start this transfer from the imported labor to local labor because it's already there. Even now, like they are doing this expressway here, a vast majority of the engineers are local.
Macharia says more than 800 Kenyans were trained at Chinese universities for 3 years, adding that more training partnerships between Kenya and China through scholarships are in the pipeline.
We also did new infrastructure within the Railway Training Institute as part of this project. And within that institute, we spent about 650 million shillings to create modern classrooms, modern technical laboratories, technical workshops, even a library to make sure that our young trainees can work and train in a good environment.
Well, that story was produced by Lekishon Laban and, of course, voiced by Nancy Kimuyu. Thank you both for that story. Now, a clash of priorities simmering in Amboseli with agriculture and wildlife colliding again. This time, an avocado growing farm is being blamed for allegedly blocking an elephant's migratory corridor. And as Linda Alela now reports, the two entities are huge foreign income earners, but one must give way for the other, elephants or avocados.
The majestic sight of elephants roaming beneath Mount Kilimanjaro has long lured throngs of wildlife lovers to Amboseli National Park on Kenya's border with Tanzania. Yet, the free movement of some 2,000 Amboseli elephants, along with 24 other wildlife species, plus cows owned by local Maasai people, may be under threat from avocados. Kenyan agricultural company Kiliavo Fresh Limited, with 180 acres of land near Amboseli, is building nurseries and preparing to grow the avocado fruit, whose popularity is growing worldwide due to the high nutritional value. Conservationists are unhappy.
So if we suddenly put very high calorie value foods in their ecosystem, they're going to want to eat them.
That elephants require to be able to mix their genes. They require to be able to stabilize their gene pools by getting males from a different area.
They are worried that the plants will block the crucial Kimana Wildlife Corridor, where elephants move between Amboseli, the Tsavo and Chulu Hills parks.
But he spends a lot of time moving through this area, Kimana Tikondo, which is the area that we're talking about. He turned back towards Kimana Sanctuary and he came up against the Kiliavo fence. You can see these two dots are really close together. And then he decides, no, I don't like this. So he moves away.
This will strangle one of Africa's greatest safaris.
Na njia pia ya wanyama kwenda Chulu na Tsavo itaisha. Kwa hiyo itakuwa na shida kubwa sana na itakuwa na human wildlife conflict kubwa sana kwa sababu wanyama watakuwa wakipita njia zingine ambayo watu wanaishi.
The farm says it obtained the land legally, then received government approval to begin work after presenting an environmental impact assessment.
There's even more farmers around this one, and there's even larger farms, and many people there are also doing the main economic activity of this area is farming.
In support, Kiliavo lawyers argue the farm is 17 kilometers away from Amboseli in an area designated for farming, terming it non-hazardous and a boost to the community around.
It's another source of employment and it's another source of making their land to have value. So they are really happy about the project.
National Environment Management Agency NEMA disclosed to Reuters that they ordered work halted last September and said it wanted to revoke the EIA. Kiliavo has challenged the legality of the action in Kenya's Environmental Tribunal. The Kenya Wildlife Service, on the other hand, said it was not consulted but would have objected to the project since it does not think the farm is appropriately located. Government data shows that with ideal conditions for growing the fruit, Kenya's avocado export revenues surged 33% to 14 billion Kenyan shillings in the year to October 2020. Squeezing the elephants could hit their population, conservationists say, harming a national heritage and also prejudicing the tourism trade. For TV47, I'm Linda Alela.
Well, thank you, Alela, for highlighting that human-wildlife conflict. Now, residents of Kurman location in Wajir West have been left to hope for better lives as water scarcity continues unabated. Women who have been entrusted with ensuring water is available in their homesteads are at the verge of giving up. They say thirst has gripped their children, the elderly and the sick, as the far and few water sources run dry. And as our Wajir-based reporter Isadin Haji reports, villages have been without water for days.
It's another difficult morning for Habiba Abdillah. She pours the final drops of water in this kettle. Her children eagerly wait for her to cook food for them, but water is unavailable in her makeshift homestead. It is then she walks out with her thirsty children to look for water. They trek for a long distance to reach the nearest water point. Unfortunately, it's another disappointment. The water kiosk is dry, and her children and many others in this village will live with their thirst unquenched.
I woke up to cook food for my children. There was no water in the house, then I came here. The tap is dry too and my children don't have water.
This woman operates this water kiosk that hundreds of villagers here depend on. The pipes in this small house has been dry for days. She takes a moment to talk to the women who came to look for water. She says she encourages them to stay patient and hope for a better life ahead.
I request the government to help us. Our major problem is water, and we need them to solve this big challenge. This challenge will prompt us to abandon the village, and our children will drop out of school.
Most women in such pastoral setups are burdened with the responsibility of ensuring water is in their homestead, as their men graze livestock deep in grazing fields. As for Timira Antar, she is left to stay with her sick and paralyzed husband. She is already old and weak, which makes it difficult for her to balance moving far to look for water and looking after her weak husband.
I am the only one who looks after him, and at the same time go out to look for water in other villages. I return in the evening when he is weak and unconscious, without anyone else to help.
Most women in this village have been forced to move for kilometers to look for this precious commodity, water. Rail of donkey carts with jerrycans move in nearby villages to look for this precious commodity in order to survive. Thus, the faces of these women and children will continue to live for hope for better days that hasn't been coming for years. Well, the lives and livelihood of these village women in pastoral setups have been marred by a myriad of challenges, key among them being water scarcity. They are forced to abandon their homes and fight thirst in order to save the lives of their children. Their hope for a better living standards could perhaps be the only base they rest on, and that too is wearing out. Isuddin Haji, TV47, Wajir County.
Well, now it's time to take a look at what is happening in the world of sports, and our sportsman Dennis Otieno is on standby. Dennis, good evening. What is happening in the world of sport this evening?
Well, good evening to you too, Musa.